So you are presenced in this space. Even if you're watching this on the replay, you're here with us, you're in the field. Let's get juicy. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what your soft life, what your soft business looks like. I'm going to share a little tiny bit about mine and what mine looks like, but it's not that relevant because yours will be yours. We're going to talk about where soft biz lives as a concept. We're going to talk about the 4 things every business needs to succeed. And you're going to do a little self-assessment about where you're making things hard. And then we're going to talk about how you soften. Then I'm going to invite you into a way that we can do this work together. And that is going to include a very fun game with some really big prizes. I will say, heads up, if you are in my membership, this is included for you. So don't buy anything. I love that there are people who are enthusiastic sometimes who buy my stuff when they're in the membership, but you don't have to because it's included for you. So I'll just have to refund you. Don't do it. Everyone else will be invited to join something, and we're going to do a fun game. We're going to do some prizes, and then we're going to do a Q&A, and I'm going to hang out and I'm going to answer questions for as long as people want to chat and have questions, because this is what I'm doing today. I'm going to try to get through this in an hour, but your girl likes to talk, so we're going to see what happens. One thing I want to share before we dive into, I want to hear from you what your soft biz looks like. This morning I did yoga, and Dr. Chelsea Jackson Roberts is my favorite yoga teacher on Peloton. And she always comes through with some gem, some nugget that like moves me to tears. And I was doing this class, and she told us to put a blanket down on the mat just to go into cat-cow, a blanket underneath our knees for extra support. And she said, go ahead and grab your blanket and place it on the mat to cushion your knees. And I wasn't going to do it. And she said, even if you're out there right now thinking you don't need it, I want you to put it there and practice letting yourself be supported. And I was like, damn it, Chelsea Jackson Roberts is reading my diary. Even if you don't think you need it, take this moment to let yourself be supported, to practice letting yourself be supported. And I was thinking about how perfect it was that that message came through for me on this day. You come to me on this day, the day of my daughter's wedding, on the day of Soft Biz Masterclass, because I just want to check in. How many of you are the kind of people, yes, there will be a replay. How many of you are the kind of people who struggle to let yourself be supported? Who might have the offer for help, the opportunity for help, people who could help you, but you say, I don't need that. I could do it by myself. It's fine. I can just handle it. Me. Anybody else? I got this. Sounds about right. Right. Yep. Me. Uh-huh. Okay. Now, also, how many of us have seen the hashtag soft life era on the internet, and we see people relaxing and receiving and on vacation and at the spa in the middle of the day, and we think, I want that. That looks nice. How does we do that? Me. I expected Emondine to say me because she's usually calling me out, but I'm guilty of this one. Me too. Okay. Yes. So what I want to know, before you tell me what you think your soft biz looks like, since we're at this intersection, when you see people in their hashtag soft life era, their soft girl era, they're at the restaurant, they're the passenger princess, they're on the vacation, they're at the spa, what are the objections to having it? Do you look at it and say, well, I can have that when I have more money? I can have that when I have more clients? What is the barrier that you believe is standing between you and the soft life that you would like to have? Money, definitely. Yeah, definitely money. Planning to get more money. Money. Now, I want to ask you a question. Do you think that there are no workaholic, stressed out, overworking six-figure business owners and or millionaires? Have you ever met anybody who made a lot of money and they still worked all the time and like could not relax and couldn't put it down and couldn't enjoy it, saved everything, didn't spend anything, didn't let themselves enjoy anything. Yeah. When I managed to kick my mother's voice out of my head. No, yes, money does not change habits. Yeah. I want to relate this to something, and this might be a little sensitive, but for any of us who have ever struggled with our weight or compulsive dieting, who may have had a number in our head where we said, once I get to this number on the scale, that's when I'm going to be happy. That's when I'm going to be confident. That's when I'm going to be relaxed. That's when I'm going to like myself. And then you hit that number and nothing happens. And it's a little bit shaking because you realized you thought the number was going to change how you felt and it didn't. Has anybody ever had that experience besides me? Because I've had that experience more than once. We think this external thing, we think this number is going to change how we feel inside. But I can tell you, as someone who has coached 6 and 7 and 8-figure business owners, that a lot of people get to that number and say, how come I still can't relax? How come I'm now more afraid than ever? Because now I think I'm going to lose it all if I relax. So it's not the number. So I want to know from you, what does your soft life look like? Okay, I'm not disputing that having enough to cover your basic expenses is important. And there is an approach and a way to generating the abundance that we require that still doesn't require A, stress, B, overwork, or C, being convinced that that number is what's going to make you worthy of also taking care of yourself. And that's where we get into conflict. Because the belief that the stress and the hustle is what's going to make it happen is where we get stuck. So, what does your soft life look like for you? Is it having long mornings? Is it vacations? Is it a 20-hour work week? If it's a 20-hour work week, what are you doing in the rest of your time? What does this look like for you? Three days off a week, says Lisa. Yeah. What are you doing in those 3 days? Amandine said, a peaceful life, a slow life where I don't rush. Oh, amen to no rushing. No alarm or work before 11 a.m., travel when I want to. Love it. That's a big part of my soft life. I do not set an alarm, and I almost never have anything on my calendar before 11 unless I'm doing a special event like this. Issa said skating, riding, sleeping in, exploring nature. Yes, no rushing as I did in Cali. Yes. I read that like Cali, like you meant Colombia, but you might have meant Cali, like California. California. Sandra said, I want to be able to do the job I love and still be present with my clients, but only working 4 days a week, being able to travel when I want to, no rushing, not being overwhelmed with all the responsibilities hanging over my shoulder. Beautiful. So I want us to be grounded in the goal of this. Amandine said, reading, writing, gardening, being of service, enjoying solo time when I need. So many of the things on your list are things you could do right now. Right? Maybe you're not staying for 2 weeks at the Ritz-Carlton Maldives, but reading and writing and gardening, being present, not rushing. These are things that are available right now. They're not something that money will require. They're not something that you need money to have. You could have that. And so I just want to ground us in, first of all, what is our goal? What is it that you really want in your life? And why is that so important to you? Last night I was hanging out with my friend and I told her one of my goals was to have a good summer. And this bitch said to me, you only got 30 summers left. Like, okay, first of all, rude, but second of all, damn. That's part of why this is so important to me. If I've only got 30 summers left, I want to have my ass out in the sand as much as I can. I don't want to look back. It's one of the biggest regrets when they do studies about bedside, like when people are passing, the things they know as their biggest regrets, almost all of them, people regret working too much and not being present. And it is something we have to be purposeful about because culture, right, our dominant culture of exploitive capitalism will constantly move us in the direction of exploiting our bodies for the sake of labor. It takes conscious effort to put our foot down and say, I'm not doing it. I'm not basing my values here. This is not what's important to me. Yeah, I could do more work today, but is that what's important in my life? No. What's important is that my work is balanced with the time that I want to spend doing the things I love. If today was my last day, would I like how I spent it? And that's the question that I'm asking myself. So when I structured my business the way that it currently is, which is I have a multi-six-figure business that has been consistently a multi-six-figure business since 2018. So that puts me in the top 2% of coaches. Most coaches never pass the 40K mark. And it puts me in the top, I believe, 4 to 6% of business owners in the United States. And I think that that number is even smaller if we're talking about women solopreneurs who bootstrapped. Oh, if we're talking about, and by bootstrapped, I mean I had no funding help to start. Besides being on unemployment for 3 months, that was my funding help. Thanks, Uncle Sam, but that's our money. I gave it to you in taxes, so that's a whole other conversation. um, I work around 20 hours a week, almost every week. It is very important to me to have long, slow, soft mornings. So usually now I wake up without an alarm. I walk to the gym, I exercise, I walk home, I stretch, I meditate, I cook breakfast, I listen to podcasts. I have a long, slow morning where I get ready. I work with clients that I love, or I work on products that I love creating for a few hours a day, and my evenings are free. I'm a dancer and choreographer. That's what I did professionally before I did this. So going to dance classes, going to rehearsals, teaching dance classes, spending time with my friends, having time to make art is how I spend my evenings. I take every Friday off and go to the beach. I am a big lover of nice shit, like an unapologetic. I'm a double Taurus with a Libra moon and a Libra stellium. I like nice things. People might call it materialistic, but I like materials. I like living in a comfortable home. I like being able to get my nails done. I love fancy food. That is something I will spend my money on. I want the fancy food. I want to go to the movies in the middle of the day. And I love help. I love having help in my business, but I also, when people, the look on my peers' faces when I tell them I have a housekeeper, look, I pay $140 for a very nice lady to come twice a month and like take my kitchen and my bathrooms apart and do the level of cleaning that I could do myself, right? So this is like, I could do it. I love having someone do it for me. I love that help. Something as simple as like Instacarting my groceries because I can outsource grocery shopping, but I cannot outsource resting. Only I can lay on the couch for me. And that is important. That accepting of help and support, getting into this energy of like, I am willing to have a network of people who support me so that I can prioritize taking care of myself and I don't feel bad about it. This is what I'm committed to. And I want you to know that I did not do this after my business made money. I structured my business this way after 20 plus years of grinding my fucking face off and never making it above the baseline of what I needed to pay rent, and starting to realize that something about the way that I approached time and money was wrong. Because if the money came from hard work, I would have the money already. I was working hard. And I was believing that at some point, if I just worked hard enough, somebody would give me permission to take care of myself. Somebody would give me permission to stop taking clients at 8 a.m. or on Sundays. And I don't know if you're also a recovering codependent people pleaser, or like me. But if you have been in relationships where you gave and gave and gave and gave and gave, and you hoped that eventually one day somebody would turn around and be like, oh my God, it's you. You've been so generous. I am now going to give to you the way that you give to me. And it never works. And they never do. It's the same shit. Sacral chakra, everything that's showing up in our relationships is showing up in our business. I'm showing up doing and giving and pleading. Recognize me, please. I'm trying to prove myself. Please show me that I'm worthy of someone taking care of me back. And I'm thinking money's going to do it. And I'm thinking clients is going to do it. But you know who I was waiting for to do it? Me. I had to do it. And it wasn't until I restructured my business to be the way that I actually wanted to live that I started making money. It is paradoxical, but that's how manifestation works. I had to live it so that I could receive it, which meant I had to do scary things like block off calls on my schedule and raise my prices before I had proven to my logical brain that I was allowed to. Okay. How are we feeling? Is this landing? I see some, okay, that hits true. Good. So where does Soft Biz live? I made us a little graphic and I hope it loads. Oh, no, it didn't load. There we go. Okay, it loaded. Hooray. I've never used this feature before. So I love a Venn diagram. If you look at my branding, all my programs have some variation of a Venn diagram. Soft Biz, right here, lives at the crux of devotion and detachment. Devotion, I'm showing up from passion. I'm consistent because I believe in the power of cumulative effort. I believe in my why and my work. I love my customers, past, present, and future. We've got a gardener on the chat. You believe in the cumulative power of watering your plants. You just know if I go out here and I water them and the sun shines today and the breeze does its thing today, the plants are going to grow. I believe that that's going to happen with complete faith. And that's where detachment comes in. I'm committed to all of this or something better. Everything I want or more as my mantra, as the place that I live. I believe this flower is going to grow to its full fruition, or it will become an entire bush. All of this or something better. Not, I don't know if this flower is really going to grow. Let me dig it up and replant it over and over and over again and then get frustrated that it's not getting bigger. I show up, I water, and I trust. Detachment, I am genuinely open to not getting my way. That one's rough. That's what it means to be detached. I am genuinely open to not getting my way. I am surrendered to the universe's or God's timing because I trust all of this or something better. And I believe that nothing meant for me can miss me. If I believe that nothing meant for me can miss me, then I'm not stressed about turning off my phone for a little while. It'll be there when I get back. And if it's not there when I get back, it wasn't meant for me. When we can show up devoted and detached, this is where we can start to create softness. And our little Venn diagram lives on a little slider. So in the healthy expression of devotion and detachment, we're able to tend to our business and step away from our business. But there's a shadow side of each of these qualities. The shadow side of devotion is overwork, obsession, hustle, anxiety. We might call it devotion, but we are actually clinging and grasping because we don't really have this trust side locked in. The shadow of detachment is collapse, wilting, avoiding, withdrawing, shutting down. When you're in devotion, the shadow of devotion is me. Yeah, I'm the queen of withdrawing and shutting down. There we go. You guys are jumping ahead. You see it. You see where we're headed. Business is shadow work, always. When you can show up from a place of passion and turn on and dedication to your goals and your dreams in detachment, you are open to receiving. all of this or something better, and trusting that the universe is going to get things delivered to you. The other thing we have to trust is other people. Hello, my trust wound, hyper independence. No one's going to do it for me. I have to do it myself. Babies. Business is about trusting other people. I trust that I do my part, I share my work, and the people are going to buy it. They're going to show up for me. So if we have wounds around trusting that other people are going to show up for me, that energetically is showing up in our suspicion that our audience is not going to become our customers. The launch is not going to work because nobody ever shows up for me. The universe delivers, God delivers its miracles through people. That's how they're coming. This money is going to come to us through people. People have to hand it to us. The shadow side is an expression of the shadow. The work is not good enough. And underneath that is the shadow of I'm not good enough. And when you're working from I'm not good enough, the inner drive that you're trying to solve for is I have to prove to myself that I am good enough, or I have to prove to myself that I'm right, that I'm not good enough. Those are the options. So when you're in the shadow of devotion, you're overworking, hustling your head off, panicking, anxiety, feeling guilty when you take time off, then that wound of I'm not good enough is demanding that you do more in order to be good enough and prove to yourself that you're good enough and prove to everyone else that you're good enough. When you're in the shadow of detachment and you're in collapse, you say, well, I'm not good enough, so who cares? Why bother? It's not going to work anyway. You cross your arms over your chest and you're like, well, show me then. If this is real, if God is real, if the universe is real, if manifestation is real, then I'm going to post this one time. And if I don't have any sales by 5 p.m., this shit is fake. And I quit. I don't like it anymore. And I'm being silly. But that's the feeling underneath. Hello, somebody. So I'm sure you already have an idea, and some of you have shared, just looking at this, which shadow you tend toward. So I want you to share, if you think you lean toward the shadow of overwork, you can just put a 1 in the chat. If you lean toward collapse, give me a 2 in the chat. Let's just see where we're at. We have a 1, 1, 1, 1 until I 2. Yes. 1, 1, 1 and 2. Uh-huh. And we're going to get a little more fine-tuned around areas where we 1 or 2 in a second. I love this. Okay. So we're going to set this aside for a little bit. We're just going to we're holding this concept right here. We're in a water spirit place in my work. I teach through the elements. So we're in our emotions. We're in our spirit side. We're going to get into earth for a second. I love this quote. Any intelligent fool can make things bigger, more complex, and more violent. It takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. For all of us who are trying to make our business more complex, harder on our bodies, more violent to our bodies, exhausting ourselves, making everything bigger and more complex because we think that's what's going to make it impressive. We think that's how we're going to prove ourselves. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of genius to be like, I'm going to simplify. I'm going to make it more straightforward. I'm going to make it easier on me and everyone else. Genius and courage. So let's talk about the 4 things every business needs to succeed. Number 1, simple as it can be. You need a great product, which means something that solves a problem, fills a need, makes people's lives better or easier or more beautiful. Number 2, you need clarity about who that product is for. What kind of person does this solve a problem for? What kind of person has this need? Number 3, you need a way to reach out to those people about your product. And number 4, you need a way for people to buy it. That's it. If you have those 4 things, you have a business. Simple but not easy. So if you're in ease, if you're in your soft biz era, in any one of these areas, right? You're in soft biz around number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. That means you know exactly what work needs to be done. You know how to assess what needs doing. You know how to show up in devotion to getting it done. and how to detach when your work is done and it's time for the universe and other people to do their part of the job. If you're not in your soft biz era in one of these areas, then you're more likely in one of the shadows we just discussed. So you're in overwork or you're in collapse. So I want you to just do a quick assessment for yourself. You can go in number one, am I in soft or am I in shadow one or shadow two? Am I in overwork? Am I in collapse? Number two, overwork, collapse, soft. Where am I? So if you are in the shadow of overwork around having a great product, it could look like you're constantly changing your offers. You're adding more things to the offers all the time. You never believe the offers are good enough to sell. You're overgiving in your offers. You're throwing everything and the kitchen sink into the offer, trying to prove to people that it's a good offer. You're undercharging for your offers. You're churning out maybe too many offers. You're never just like, this is it. This is the product. I'm locked in. I believe in this. I'm ready to step away onto number two. If you're in collapse around having a great product, you're like, I don't know. I just do stuff. When people approach me and ask me what I do, I'll like create a custom package for them. But like maybe there's some resistance to solidifying exactly what your offers are. And you just don't want to do that part. I was there for a long time because I was like, well, I can coach anybody. I could. Don't know that I want to. Took me a very long time to allow myself to get clear and put together solid offers around how I wanted to deliver coaching. If you're in the shadow of overwork around clarity about who the product is for, maybe you're constantly changing or tweaking your niche. You are refining and refining and refining, or actually changing niches all the time. You're like, oh, I don't know, because maybe I'm changing my product. So I don't know if it's this person, maybe it's that person. If you're in collapse around clarity, it might look like never niching down because you just want to be available to help anybody. If you're in overwork around a way to reach people about your product, and as I'm sharing this, please feel free to put in the chat where you're at, or you can just do it in your journal, but I'd love to hear. If you're in overwork around a way to reach people, maybe you're trying to be on every single social media platform and have a podcast and be on YouTube and send daily emails and post all the time and do ads, but you're doing that all yourself. And you have a lot of anxiety around, am I doing enough in my marketing? Am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? If you're in collapse on that, then it could be that you're not showing up, that you're not posting, that you don't believe it's going to work for you to market. So you're not really doing anything. If you're in overwork for a way for people to buy your product, it can look like constantly changing your payment processor or building websites for people to check out on things, but then constantly tinkering with them, creating a lot of landing pages for things. If you're in collapse on it, it can look like, I don't know, this was me. Some people cash out me and some people Venmo me and some people PayPal me. And like, I asked some people to Zelle me and like, I don't really have like the financial side really like that organized. And that part, right? That part. Number one, overwork. Number two, overwork. Number three, collapse. Number four, overwork. There we go. Love it. Alexa said, so far I managed both shadows at once for all of them. I love Dee says, I'm one until I two. How does it feel just to recognize this and be like, oh, this is about what's going on in me. This is about approach. This is inner game. It's not about the outer game. It's the inner game that's driving how I'm approaching these things. Joanna asked, how often do I do these? I'd love to attend again. Joanna, this is the first time I've ever shared this work, and I don't know if I'm going to do it again. So we got to stay in touch. This is all brand new. How does it feel? I just would love to hear real quick. How does this feel? Are we having some ahas? I'm feeling called out. called in. So welcomed, because you're not alone. Look at this chat. Everyone is like, oh shit, me too. This is very common. Shahalia said, confronting as fuck. Good. I'm one of those people, and I don't know if you're like this too, but I love when I go to the doctor and they tell me what's wrong with me. Thank God it has a name. That means it can be fixed. It's not just some mysterious, like, I don't want it to be a mystery problem. I want to know what the problem is. Alexa said, yes, same. Yeah. So, like, it's confronting, but I hope it's also a little bit exciting because if you know what it is and you recognize it, then you can start to do something different and you can actually start to address the right problem. And that's when you're going to start to see results. Because a lot of times we're assessing things incorrectly and we're trying to address the wrong problem. And I'm going to talk about that more in a second. We're overworking because we think the problem is I haven't proved myself. But when you recognize that you're looking at the wrong problem, then you can be like, oh, now I can do something totally different. I get to change. So in either of these cases, whether we're in the shadow of overwork or the shadow of collapse, Shahalia said, definitely narrowing it down to these 4 categories in the shadow scale puts things into perspective. I'm so glad. So in both of these cases, our emotions, our water, and our belief, our faith, our spirit, our water and our spirit side are blocking us from being able to address what's really going on in our business in an effective way that would actually allow you to step away from work, because how would you ever know if something is enough? What you believe determines the questions you're asking. And the questions you're asking determines the answers and solutions you're seeking. In coaching, there's a saying, the quality of questions you're asking determines the quality of your life. So if you're operating your business and your life from wounding and scarcity, if you believe you have to do more or prove yourself before you will be worthy of taking breaks, of taking care of yourself, of resting, of receiving clients and money, if you believe that something external has to happen before you can believe in yourself, right? Once I make money, then I'll believe in my business. If you believe something external has to happen before you can change your life and prioritize yourself, like once I make more money and have more clients, then I can take more time for things that bring me joy, then you will be literally unable to figure out when you've done enough. How would you know? I guess you only know when you get the results, but you can't get the results until you change the approach. So you're working and working and working, trying to change the results, thinking the results are going to allow you to change the approach. You're in a catch-22. That is why you don't know when you're allowed to close the laptop and step away, because you don't believe it's enough. Issa said, I feel like I know the wounds driving my behaviors, but I don't know how to balance because I've been wanting until I too for so long. Shahilia said, yeah, it's the feedback loop from one shadow to the next is a coaching mechanism. Amandine said, that's literally something I've said. I will believe it will work when I can actually start making money. And you can't start making money unless you believe it will work, because leaders go first and followers follow leaders. You out here on the internet trying to get followers, who are they going to follow? You're out here asking them, prove to me that my business is worth investing in. Who's going to buy from someone who doesn't believe they're worth investing in? This is inner game. What Issa said about how do I change it? I know it's out. It's with so much love because I was there too. The ouch is so like, here's something I've realized about myself as a coach. There are some coaches that are like, I'm going to hold you in soft, loving space. I'm going to hold you, but like in a crucible. I am here to burn away the bullshit because you're capable of it. You're ready for this or you wouldn't be here. You're ready to burn away the things that are blocking you, to get distilled to the truth of yourself. Issa's laughing because she knows it's true, because she is the soft and fluffy one. You go to Issa for soft fluffy. You come to me if you want to be pulled down to the studs with so much love and so much clarity. Because it's funny because we're all like this. It's funny because all of these wounds are so common that we're all showing up like this. It's funny because this is the result of me knowing my people, because I've been doing this work for 10 years. So there are metrics that matter. And this is to Issa's point about how do I step away? We start measuring metrics that matter, for one thing. When we're in this space of working from wound and scarcity, the only numbers we're tracking are how many hours am I working, how many people like us, which we actually can't measure, it's all made up in our head, and how many followers do I have and how much money do I have coming in. If the only question we're asking is, am I doing enough to prove myself, to prove that I'm worthy, is the unspoken part. And we're trying to answer that question with, well, how many hours am I working? And frequently, the way that's measured when we're in the wound of devotion is, have I worked until I'm completely exhausted yet? That's when I've done enough. Have I worked until my body is broken? Have I worked until I have nothing left to give? Because if not, I cannot call it enough. We're asking the wrong question and we're meeting it with an answer that causes us pain. That's when I believe I'll deserve results. And when I don't get them, I move deeper into my wound of not good enough, and maybe my wound of detachment, or I give up and pout. I won until I two. I believe that the only time I've ever done enough is when I'm in pain. And if I don't get results from that pain, I've been lied to. It's not worth it. We have to start asking a different question. We have to start measuring different metrics. How many hours am I working is only one metric, and it's not the most important one. So when I say other metrics, how many hours, right? Quantitative. That's right. Yeah, quantitative things. Things we can measure with numbers. So metrics that actually matter are the metrics that move the needle towards your ultimate goal. And that means that you as the CEO have to know your ultimate goal. For example, if your ultimate goal is more high ticket one-on-one sales into your services, then some of the metrics that matter might be, how much traffic are you getting to your website? How many calls are you booking for people who want to speak with you? How many of those calls are resulting in people signing up to work with you? And that's obviously assuming that you're doing sales calls for high ticket. You might not be, but this is just an example. So each of those metrics give us different information about what we should be working on. For example, if you want to be closing 5 sales calls a month, you're going to need more calls than that. The way that you determine how many calls is based on your close rate, but that's kind of, we're getting into a different thing. So let's say your goal is to close at a 5% close rate. You want 5 sales a month. So you got to get 20 calls a month booked. So the first place we're going to look is how many people are making their way to that page of your website. If the answer is less than 20, then we know that the question we got to be focused on is, how do I increase my website traffic? So then we know when I'm doing work, the work I need to do is the work that increases my website traffic. And once I've done the work that increases my website traffic, I can say it's enough. That was the work that mattered for today, and I get to close my laptop. That was it. I moved toward the goal. If the website is pretty good, but not a lot of people who visit the website are booking calls, then we can go, okay, I must have a messaging problem or a branding problem or a design problem. Maybe I have a layout problem. So then the question is, how do I optimize and tweak this page, my branding, my messaging, my layout for conversion? That's the work we focus on because we're focused on metrics that matter. If people are opening the application and not filling it out, we know we have a problem with the application. So we might need to make the application easier for people to fill out. If the problem is that we're booking all the calls, we have 20 calls, but we're not closing, then we got to look at our sales process. Does this land? This is so, right? This is complete earth. There's no emotions in it. I need to be able to look at my business from the adult, centered, whole CEO perspective and assess what is the business problem I need to solve. And when I'm operating from my wounding, I can't look at what the business problem I need to solve is because I'm trying to solve for how do I prove myself to my wound. I can't even see it. I am underwater with it. Knowing exactly what we need to measure to help us figure out what is the needle moving work we need to do toward our goal allows us to only put needle moving work on our calendar. So then when we're working, we're not going to spend 6 hours mindlessly making Canva graphics, exhausting ourselves on something that doesn't move the needle just so you can prove to yourself that you're working enough to say that you deserve money. Instead, you can spend your dedicated work hours getting really dialed in on that application or the copy or the sales process, whatever you've determined is the current gap in your results. And when you're done with the work that moves the needle, it's easier to let that be enough because you know that the thing that you're working on was actually the thing that needed to be worked on, because you're able to accurately assess the problem and ask questions from an adult, whole, solid CEO place. You're not trying to solve your emotional wounds with your business. You're answering business questions in your business. We want to be able to look at everything in our business with clarity and dispassionately as the CEO who's here to problem solve and get results. And that being able to do that is predicated on getting out of that shadow space. The issue is not that you need more metrics, that you need a technique, that you need a different strategy, that you need life hacks, that you need to work harder. The issue is cleaning up these wounds and moving out of trying to operate your business from water and scarcity and lack of faith and into being able to run your business from clarity and certainty and maturity in your business. It means showing up to the parts of you that believe that you are not enough and that your work is not enough, that you are not good enough, that your work is not good enough, so that you can set that aside. Right? We need to shore these things up. We need to heal them so that we can set this discussion aside entirely and become more present and more able to look at the business with intention and not from underwater. Is this landing? Yes, good. This is not bad. We all, every single human on earth has wounded child parts and healthy adult parts, but we cannot run a healthy business from wounded child energy. Our ability to soften is directly connected to our ability to become the healthy adult in our business. So I want to ask, how do you think your business and your life would be different if you no longer spent any time wondering if you were enough or if you were good enough? How would your life and business change if the question, have I done enough, could actually be answered by a trackable metric and not by an emotional feeling of deficit? How would things be different? I'd get to stop feeling guilty for resting. Yes, ma'am. Now, I also want to speak to that, Issa. You said, well, you know where it comes from, but you don't know how to stop. This is one of those things where self-care doesn't always feel good at the beginning. Some of this is that you would have to start doing it and allowing it to be uncomfortable and doing the emotional and shadow work and nervous system work while it's happening to move through the guilt rather than responding to the guilt by working, right? Because that's what you do now. The guilt shows up and says, I will go away if you work, so you work. You have to let the guilt show up and say, I'm not going to do it. We're going to have to work through this a different way until you stop having the guilt show up. Sandra said, I'd have much more mental and emotional space to focus on my business and not my overwhelmed nervous system and stress and scarcity. Yeah. And Dean said, I would get to stop seeking. I think that probably means approval or appreciation, but I think that they became approbation as both words blended, and I like it, from people I don't feel believe in me. Shahalia said, this is merging masculine metrics with focused feminine flow feelings. Yep, absolutely. And I actually use that language in some of this, but I shifted it from masculine feminine to child adult, because honestly, when we're thinking well, what's the difference between wounded masculine and wounded child? What's the difference between wounded feminine and wounded child? Nothing. If we're in our wound, we're in wounded child. Oh, I'm gonna do that. Sorry, French brain mixing things up. I love it. Yeah. So you could call it masculine and feminine coming together. And one thing, if we like that language, and again, this has nothing to do with gender, this is about energetics, creating structure in our business, such as these are my work hours. These are the days I see clients. These are the days I do admin. These are the days I do marketing. This is how I show up to these hours. This is the structure that I've set for myself, is what allows the feminine to flow. If you have all flow, right? I was talking to a guy about this recently. Like, he's like, I just like to go with the flow. I'm like, you can flow right on out of my life because I'm here to go with the flow. And if we're both going with the flow, nobody's going anywhere. Rivers only flow because there is a river bed. There is structured earth giving the flow somewhere to go. If there's no river bed, groundwater just evaporates. Nothing happens. It's not going anywhere. It just sits in a puddle. It becomes a bog. There needs to be structure for there to be flow. We have to create structure for ourselves and adhere to it in order to give ourselves that space that we get to have ease, that we get to go with the flow, that we get to play. Now, I know somebody said they had to leave. Oh, Alexa said, I have the courage to take more intuitive, aligned action instead of overthinking. Yes. I know that says overthinking, but I like overthinking. Okay. Now I'm going to invite you into something. If you would like support on how to do this work, how to soften, this is the part where I invite you to work with me in Soft Biz Era. This is a 6-week coaching program dedicated to cleaning up these wounded places of not good enough. There's not a curriculum. It's not a course. It is live hot seat group coaching. I will be working with you one-on-one in the small group space while we all hold a field of faith and support and belief and encouragement to one another for becoming the kind of people who take exquisite care of ourselves. There will be a private group where you can ask me questions, and there will be a private podcast feed. So I'll be dropping you little exercises, tools, concepts, things to do, ways to reframe this. You're going to work on them on your own. We're going to come live into hot seat coaching and we're going to get deep. We're going to use hypnosis. We're going to use nervous system regulation techniques. We're going to use NLP. Some of you have worked with me in one-on-one space know that I am very masterful at helping move, replace, and shift energetics in the body. And I will be doing that with you live one-on-one. So it's not a course where you have to do any homework. It's going to be you and I doing deep work together. The calls will be Wednesdays, 5 to 7 p.m. every Wednesday from June 19th to July 24th, 5 to 7 p.m. my time. I know some of you are in the UK. If we need to work on the time because people in the UK want to do it, we can talk about that. This was the time I had set, but I get it. If that's like 2 a.m. for you, we can talk. By the end of the program, if you show up and apply yourself to this inner work, if you get deep and vulnerable with yourself, you will shift out of the wounded child places that are running your business and into the healthy CEO who's able to focus on the things that move the needle and step away from work with healthy detachment so that you can have that soft life you went into business to create, so that you can close the laptop and go garden or go roller skate or go ride or go play without worrying that you're doing something wrong. You will relax into yourself and your business in a way that allows you to safely and comfortably restructure your business model into one that supports your soft life while making money. The anxiety that prevents you from being able to be present with rest and play and relaxation will dissolve, allowing you to enjoy your life and your business now, not when you relax or make more money, but now. And that will open the door for you to start receiving on a higher level. It always does. So we're going to play a game. In a second, I'm going to drop the link. And here's what we're going to do. The first person to sign up is going to get a 100% refund. So the first person to sign up is getting the program for free. The 5th person to sign up is going to also get their pick of any of my courses. And they run the gamut from how to do a course curriculum, how to turn your one-on work into a group coaching, how to do launching, how to build a business from the ground up. You will get to pick any of my courses valued up to $3,333, depending on the course you choose. You just get to pick one and you get to keep it. If we keep going, the 10th person to sign up is going to get a free 30-minute consultation one-on-one. Are you ready? I've never done this before. I'm very excited. So if you're thinking of joining, you might want to try to be first. Ready, ready, ready. Okay, I'm dropping it. Here we go. Boom. And in a second, we'll see who won the prizes. But now the Q&A is open.